Hey, here are 3 copywriting tricks that helped Donald Trump get elected the 47th president of these United States of America, and much more than that, allowed him to bolster enough support to utterly sweep the election, winning in a landslide. It's all about manipulation. But I'm here to tell you, manipulation isn't always a bad thing. I don't care who you voted for. You need to know that you are being manipulated and why, and I can't even say manipulated. This is Jon Benson, and I'm Sales Copy Secrets. Now, before I begin, this is not a video on politics. This is not a political channel. I have friends who voted for Trump, some who voted for Harris, some didn't vote at all. We're all still friends, and I'm sure the same is true for you, hopefully all of you watching. My job is to talk persuasion, and a few key speeches really tipped the hand on who I think would win this election before it ever took place. And I'm here to point out the ways that Trump masterfully uses persuasion tactics and wordsmithing to connect with his voters, and more importantly, to give voters a crystal clear mental picture of what he represented. It should not be controversial that Harris not only failed to communicate in the same fashion, she failed to convey who she was at all in any way, and ran a campaign that was essentially, I'm not the other guy. Now, before we dive in, just picture how that would go over if you're selling a product or service. Hey, at least we're not ABC. Well, would anyone buy it? No, your buyers need to know exactly what you have to offer them. Harris offered platitudes and word salad to offer her followers that I'm just not Trump. That's not enough. That's simply not sufficient if your goal is persuasion. Had she had talented writers on her side, this election may have gone in the exact opposite direction. Now, our goal here is to show you what Trump was doing correctly when it comes to words and persuasion, and to encourage you to use these techniques in your copywriting game, because these skills can help someone get elected president. If that's true, they can definitely help you sell more of whatever it is that you're trying to sell. Am I correct? Hell yeah, I'm correct. So we'll be looking at Harris's acceptance speech at the DNC and looking at that in comparison to Donald Trump's acceptance speech. We're also going to look at Trump's language during and after the election, how incredibly visual it is compared to Harris's language, which was vague and lacked any impact or clarity. Okay, let's take a look at this from a position of takeaways. Takeaway number 1 is I want you to think benefits. First, I want you to look at the first 500 words of Harris's concession speech. Now, bear in mind, this is by far the largest audience she had up until this point, and she begins the speech with, get this, you can see it on the screen, not one single direct benefit to the listener at all from the start of the speech to the moment she said, I accept the nomination. Not one benefit. The entire first 1,000 words, not a single mention of what she was going to do for the person listening to her. Not one. No sales letter ever written can claim that was successful. It's copywriting suicide. Call it stupidity on the part of her speechwriter, call it narcissism, call it whatever you want. There's not a single mention of a benefit. It's entirely about her life, her family, how she grew up, and it screams of a desperation to connect. Worst of all, it's boring as hell. Now, look at Trump's speech of the same exact type. It's an acceptance speech at the RNC. It took Trump a mere 88 words to get to his first massive benefit to the listener. Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for the citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. So, over 1,000 words without a single benefit compared to 88 words, and then benefits that spoke to exactly who Trump knows his voters are and what they're concerned about: safety, prosperity, freedom, ending division. Trump ends his speech with this massive benefit statement. I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation to every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, independent, black, white, Asian, or Hispanic. I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together, we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before. That's about as inclusive as you can get. And something I'll cover in the next takeaway, notice how much he uses the word we. Notice how many times he uses it, not in the context of our administration. I mean, both candidates do that all the time. In the context of we, as in we the people being discussed, we the people listening to this conversation. It represents we the people as a whole. We. I'm going to come back to the importance of that in just a moment. Now, both candidates in their speeches with a string of benefits, both positive and negative benefits. But great copy begins and ends with a strong order of emphasis. And Trump clobbers Harris in his speech when it comes down to saying what's in it for you in order of emphasis. Now, one more point. Harris is famous for word salad, something that kills sales copy as quickly as political campaigns. And it's true. She would famously string together sentences that mean absolutely nothing. One of her most famous word salad sentences, I can't even say it, is this: the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time. There is such great significance to the passage of time. I'm reading this verbatim. Clearly, this is just rambling in the very definition of word salad. But Trump is famous for rambling too. On Joe Rogan, he actually referred to it as weaving. He said he weaves in and out of conversations, right? But he eventually gets back to the point occasionally that he's trying to make, and his points are usually simplistic and direct. And this is the difference between weaving and spewing out word salad on purpose because you don't have anything really of substance to say. Now, likewise, when you're writing copy, get to the fucking point. Say what you mean. Say it simplistically. If you ever find yourself writing for the sake of writing, stop. Delete it all. Write only what you need to be bold, believable, and create interest and tension. Everything else in copy is word salad. Okay, takeaway number 2 is story selling. If you didn't see my video on story selling, the link is in the description below. Check it out. Trump goes right from his benefit statement into a story that, again, even his detractors find compelling. It's the attempt on his life in Butler, and he tells the story in a funny, captivating way. He uses tons of phrases like, this massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. It's very visual. Harris's stories sound like she's interviewing for a job or writing a book in a boring way. And boring is the operative word here. Nothing she said was remotely interesting to the majority of people watching, even her supporters. And even worse, it wasn't entertaining. Yes, it wasn't supposed to be about entertainment. That's not what I'm trying to say. But all communication has an element of entertainment to it that needs to resonate with the majority. All of it. And notice this. Trump uses one phrase over and over again. As you know, or variations of that phrase like you've seen it or you can see. That's copywriting gold. It's actually NLP or neuro-linguistic programming. It's a presupposition in this case. It assumes that the listener knows what he's about to say. But if they do not know, they hear this as a presupposed or given truth. It's also a rapport building tactic. It can be read as if he's speaking to one person, even though he's speaking obviously to a group of thousands or tens of thousands. He also uses we a lot, like I mentioned earlier. We is crucial. Look at this phrase. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. We were under attack. Wow. We, not I. We. Compare that to the Harris speech, which was literally all about her. There was very little inclusion, where Trump is using very inclusive speech that builds connection and rapport with the word we over and over again. This is masterfully done, and it really does come across as very authentic. Then he calls for a moment of silence for the man tragically lost at the event in Butler. But more than that, he walks over to his shrine and hugs it. That response was palpable and believable, as Trump has a long history of going into police precincts, firehouses, and the like. He really likes real people despite not being one. He's like a billionaire, right? But this is a very interesting quality, and he pulls it off pretty well. So takeaway number 3 is visceral and branded language. Now, I'm going to be switching over to one of Trump's post-election videos now. He's using terms that he used on the campaign trail as well, but this time we get them in a single 6-minute dose, and man, do you really see the power of words and persuasion on display in this video. The lessons here are many. First, continue to sell. The sale is not over after a transaction. The sale continues long after. That's why we start upsell videos with a ton of benefit phrases like praise for taking action. Here's what you're about to experience. I mean, we're still selling, even though we just made the sale. The time of the sale is not the end, it's the beginning. And Trump does this, but perhaps in some of the strongest sales copy I've ever seen written for a political candidate. Harris had absolutely nothing that came close to this, nothing at all. And that's one of the reasons for her historic defeat. This video here was posted on X a few days after the election and outlined in detail some of the things his administration was going to do and how they were planning on doing it. And that's very important because specificity is key in sales, and Harris was roundly criticized on both sides for being exceptionally vague, changing her positions left and right, downright confusing positions like she was for fracking, then against it, and for a wall, then against it, and so on. Trump, whether you like him or not, it's not the point, was at least consistent. And this video contains all the best copy from his campaign speeches in one shot. First, listen to the video, End the War on Free Speech. Even the title is provocative and visceral. It's a war on free speech. But that's just scratching the surface. 18 seconds in, Trump says, "Today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans." Damn. That's loaded with visceral language that immediately creates an image in your mind so you see and feel what he's saying rather than just hear the words. That creates a mastery sensory impact on the brain and body and moves someone to want to act. I use these words all the time in sales copy, and Trump uses them as if he was an A-list copywriter or his speechwriter is. Now look at that sentence. Shatter. Shatter is a visceral verb. You can see it. Left-wing censorship regime. It's not just the left being into cancel culture or whatever. It's a freaking regime. And when you think of the word regime, what do you think of? Most of us think of something negative like communism or something, or war. And that's done intentionally, of course. Reclaim the right to free speech. You can't reclaim something that you have, so this presupposes we've lost one of our most important rights. One sentence loaded with benefits and visceral language, but there's more, a lot more. Listen to this one. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. Wow. I mean, that's a masterclass of copywriting, whether you believe it or not. In the recent weeks, this is localized and temporal. It means right now, it's immediate, it's new. Bombshell reports have confirmed, clearly the image is that of war again, bombshell, but listen to the rest of the sentence. Sinister, tyrants, depraved, conspiring. All of these are words of war, which echoes back to the title itself, In the War on Free Speech. These words are dripping with imagery. They paint a picture that Harris could not paint, and of course, as always, Trump's order of emphasis, meaning the starting and ending thoughts of his key points, completely spot on. Listen to this. In recent weeks, bombshell reports. That's the introduction of the key concept. And why should you care? Well, the last two words, American people. You have the concept and the target, first and last. And since Trump's writers know the mind and hearts, they end the sentences and ideas oftentimes with that exact statement, that exact phrase. Now, the middle is somewhat hazy, but what they do is they load the middle with visceral words, which leaves the images and ideas in your mind. So you walk away with the idea, even if you don't remember the entire sentence. These are bombshells, confirmed reports of a war against the American people. This is extremely visceral. He goes on to describe these powers that be as the censorship cartel. Cartel. Wow, so many Trump voters are keenly aware of the problems with drug cartels, for example. So he uses that word on purpose. It's an enemy his supporters already hate. And now he's used it in a process that we call anchoring to attach that image to the censorship-driven establishment media. They're not just left-wing, they're a cartel. Wow. Then he goes into proof mode, meaning he makes several claims, then he says, and here's my plan. That's no different than stating benefits like you'll lose weight faster, followed by, and here's how, or and here's why, with some element of proof. But the absolute best phrase in the entire speech is the phrase, digital bill of rights. I heard that and couldn't help but say yes out loud. I really did. The Bill of Rights may be the most important document in human history, definitely from a political and a personal freedom point of view. And Trump anchors this free speech rant to the digital space and then refers to creating not just an uncensored speech online kind of platform arena, but a freaking digital Bill of Rights. Any student of American history would immediately see in their mind what he's saying, and it's massive. It's massive. Way bigger than saying a bill to demand free speech online. That's boring. That's what it is. But that's not a branded term. He's using a branded term, the Digital Bill of Rights. It's one of the best branded terms I've ever heard, period. And this from a politician speechwriter. Now, I could go on and on about how Trump uses language masterfully, both naturally and through the excellent speechwriters he has, and how Harris did the exact opposite. But the results, they kind of speak for themselves. You should apply each and every one of these tactics to your sales copy if you want to reach the largest audience possible. Now, let me end by saying this, super important. Manipulation is at hand here, but manipulation is not evil. It's the intent that's good or bad. Persuasion used to sell something that benefits someone's life is manipulation for the greater good. Getting your kids to eat their vegetables by promising them dessert, well, that's manipulation for the greater good. In short, intent is everything. Now, in politics, much of the time, the intent isn't great no matter which side people are on, right? Sometimes it's downright evil. So in the coming weeks and months, I'm going to be pulling back the curtain on manipulation tactics, both good and evil, and showing you how they're being used against you, whether it's in ads or whether it's in politics or whether it's in anywhere, for or against your benefits. So don't forget, check out my YouTube Peep special, $ trial below, for my AI copywriting app, Benson, because it does a lot of this whole copy stuff for you. Cut and paste simple, all without prompts, and will absolutely help you create copy that masters all of these principles and much, much more. I truly hope this helps you. Now, get to it.